evening. I look out on the audience and I see a bunch of faces that were here a week ago at the Parks Committee meeting, and I just want those people who are there, who are out in the audience, who were here last week, and those of you who have concerns about the concert series that the Open Space Alliance runs, we hear you loud and clear. We are already working on the issues that were addressed at the meeting. Since that meeting, we are working even harder to address those issues. And I want to brief you about the work that we've been doing, because it's my hope that by planting now, we can reap much better benefits for the community with respect to the concerts. My name's Adam Perlmutter. I'm a resident of Greenpoint for 14 years. I'm a former member of Community Board 1, and I'm the secretary of the OSA Board of Directors. And as a first matter, I need to tell the community that last summer we were forced into a relationship with a concert promoter that we did not want to work with. That was the concert promoter that ran the Sunday concerts. That promoter routinely violated decibel limits and sound limits that were set for them. They had a VIP facility on Kent Avenue. They ran concerts that went all afternoon, often with lineups of 5 or 6 bands, which caused inordinate amounts of sound checks. That promoter basically ran a circus on Sundays in our community without care for the community. That promoter is no longer working with OSA. As far as the Parks Committee recommendations, I want to address them very briefly. We have tried, to the extent possible under our contractual obligations, to meet the community, the Parks Committee's concerns. The Parks Committee wants 10 concerts. There were 22 concerts last summer. There are now 15, 10 paid, 5 free. Of the 5 free concerts, we are diversifying our impact, and we are diversifying it to reduce we're diversifying the lineup, and we're also thinking that that is going to reduce the impact greatly. We're going to have 2 family children's concerts. We're going to have a Philharmonic concert, and we're going to have a comedy show. So that's going to drop the amount of more impactful shows down to 11, as opposed to 22 last summer. The community board asked for a 5,000 person capacity. We've reduced our capacity 15% from last year, from 7,500 to 6,500. And our contractual obligations require that level this year. But we believe that we have implemented other improvements that will offset the impact. First of all, I talked about the diversified programming. There was an issue raised about the Summer Stars concert series on Thursday nights. That has been cleared, and that film series will be going forward on Thursday nights in July and August. We are working with the 9-4 to greatly improve crowd control, especially for 6th, 7th, and 8th streets. We find that we think that one of the biggest impacts is when the concerts let out, they immediately let out into directly residential blocks at 6th, 7th, and 8th Street. And we've heard a lot from 8th Street, and we know that that's a problem. What we want to try to do is divert the crowd up the more industrial streets and up commercial streets, that they don't impact the community nearly as much. And we want to work with the 9-4 to make sure that residents of 6th, 7th, and 8th streets have access to their homes and for parking. So we're going to be working on that. We're also implementing better street cleaning. We're going to have crews going up 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th streets. We're also working to install permanent trash cans throughout the area. And we are going to be having post-concert announcements to reduce the amount of impact by the crowd when they leave. Sound checks are going to be greatly reduced. There will be none before noon, except possibly for the family concerts. And they're going to be far more limited than last year. Last year on Sundays, there were 5, 6 bands. They would each have to do a separate sound check. This summer, each lineup will be there'll be 2 bands. There'll be a warm-up act and a main act. So those are going to be reduced much more. OSA is committed absolutely to improving what we're doing here. We do realize that there have been problems. We apologize for them. We appreciate the way that people have interacted with us on a civil level, and we hope that that will continue. We are going to be implementing some other things to improve our communication that I'd like to address with the community board very briefly. First of all, OSA has a very broad mission. It's the only parks conservancy in the city that is taking responsibility for an entire community district. That is very difficult because we're mainly volunteer run. I'll be very brief to finish. We have a seat on our board for the community board at every one of our meetings. And we ask that the community board take that seat and sit at all of our board meetings to bring and to make sure that communication is improved between the board and OSA. On our end, we are going to be sending, and I've spoken to the chairman about this, on a quarterly basis, we are going to be presenting to the community board what we do and what improvements we're making so that we can make sure that we get on the same page. And frankly, that's our fault. We've made a mistake on that. Because as the Parks Conservancy that's taken a mandate for all of Community Board 1, we have to be working hand in hand with Community Board 1, and we intend to do that. There were questions about our annual report. That has gone up in draft form on our website today. At this point, there's a resolution on the table, and I'm reminded very briefly of the story of Winston Churchill. He was at an event where a woman came and said, "Would you like a glass of wine?" And he said, "I would." And then she went to a minister and said, "Minister, would you like a glass of wine?" And he said, "Wine? I don't drink. You might as well ask me if I want to have adultery." And Churchill said, "Are there options?" Anyway, listen, there are options today, and the option is that the board can either vote in favor of the resolution from the Parks Committee, vote it down, but what I would ask is that you table it. Hold it in abeyance. Let us get through the summer working with each other. Let's see if our efforts have yielded positive benefit, and then let's take up this issue again after the season to see if we've all got on the same page with each other. I want to thank you again. I know that I've spoken beyond my 5 minutes. I'm here to answer any questions, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Don't do it again.
So noted. Julie, on the item.
Absolutely on the item.
Question, right?
Yes. Remember what I was saying. First of all, Adam, I want to thank you, all of you at OSA, for addressing these issues so quickly.
Speak up.
Responsiveness is really important. One clarification I'm asking for is, you mentioned that there is a seat on OSA's board for community. Is that your board of directors or your community committee?
No, that's our board of directors. We have ex officio representatives from many elected officials who come to our board members. It's a non-voting seat, but it allows them to be present at every OSA board meeting in order to have input. Okay?
And was that since the beginning, Adam? Is that how your bylaw
That is since the beginning, and it's set up by law. It's set up by charter that way.
Have you had anybody come in?
We have. I don't think we've had a community board member, but we have representatives from Councilman Levin's office, from Councilwoman Diana Reyna's office, from State Senator Daniel Squadron's office.
Has OSA regularly sent invitations to other meetings to Community Board 1?
I believe that has been extended.
We have, and we also have an open seat as well for somebody from the community board, not just on the board of directors, but on the community committee. And it's a two-way street. I mean, as much as we'll be reaching out and pulling.
We're hoping to improve on that. So I think that enough is said on that issue.
We appreciate the outreach. Katie?
Will you be lowering the decibels of the sound check the way they did in the Karen Carter?
I think that that there's definitely going to be an effort on that. I think that a lot of the sound issues from last summer, and I mean this respectfully to the people on North 8th Street, is that we had a promoter that took control of the soundboard and was exceeding limits that were set for them on sound, and that was a problem. That will not happen this summer. Isn't that correct from AEG?
So who's the new promoter?
We're using a booking agent, AEG Live. They're a national company. We worked with them last summer. We found that we had an RFP that we extended out to other promoters, and they were awarded the contract.
Hey, Katie, follow up.
I'm wondering if during this summer residents do have complaints that some of these, if they do have complaints, what should they do with these complaints?
Okay. This is an issue that we're addressing. One of the things that we would like to do, and I've spoken with some people on the board about it, is, and I don't want to name any names, but if there's, we would like to arrange to give an all-access pass to somebody from the community board. So if they're aware of a problem during the shows, they can enter the backstage area, contact an OSA person, and and register the complaint. Otherwise, I'm available for people to contact. Jane Poole, who many of you know, she's a member of the concert committee of the for OSA, and she will be available by cell phone. So we'll make sure that there are people that can be reached out to who will be immediately responsive to any concerns that are going on.
Mr. Solano?
I have two questions. Not the press and sort of Miss Heaven's Block. You mentioned that there was a Latino thing that's happening in the summer, and I just wanted you to
Yeah,
give some.
actually, we have a contractual limit to the number of shows that we can do, and I'd love to do that. At the same time, we were being pushed to do more children's programming, so we've actually upped the number of children programs that we're doing, but that then means that something has to be cut. I mean, ideally, I'd love us to be able to grow into a summer stage model where we do every sort of ethnic group and dance and opera and philharmonic and kid shows and everything that there is. But the fact of the matter is we have a limit in what we're allowed to do.
That wasn't a request. That was something you said you were doing.
Yeah.
Right, that was our initial intention.
And Mike, let me address that. What happened was that as we went back and looked at the schedule, we wanted to reduce the amount of concerts that were at risk of creating a greater impact. And so we decided that we would increase the amount of family children's concert programming as opposed to that.
Okay. Last question. Tish.
Well, some children's performances, concerts for the younger generation, and also the Philharmonic. Is that going to happen this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that going to be a free performance?
Yes, that will be free programming.
Those three?
Yes, ma'am. And we're going to try to make arrangements to do ticket distribution in local schools to make sure that local students are in attendance as opposed to having to wait online with their families and maybe not get in. I know that Dell has...
Last question.
Is you promoting here tonight, or someone from your...
He is. Sam, why don't you come forward? If he raises his hand, he's this tall fellow with the beard.
By the way, just a point of reference, the fact is that, yes, I do work for a national company, but I've lived in the Williamsburg and Greenpoint area for 10 years now.
Sam's assistant, Laurel, also lives in Greenpoint.
There's a half a dozen of people that I work with every day that are from this area.
So I just wanted to make sure you were here and that you hear the concerns of the community with respect to the decibel level of not just the concerts, but the sound checks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I second Adam's comment about the producer of Sunday shows last year taking quite a bit in the way of liberties with both sound checks and sound limits. The fact is that we relegate our sound checks as tightly as possible in a specific window, and I can guarantee you that none of those, again, maybe with the exception of the kids show, simply because that's going to have to be earlier in the day. The reality is none of those sound checks are going to be in any way, shape, or form before noon, and if I can push it further into the day, I'll absolutely do that. Also, very specifically, we have a window of time that's modeled based on Prospect Park and Summer Stage, and ultimately on the model that I did at McCarran Pool, too. That was part of my job. And the fact is that, we try and hit for about a 4-hour window, and that usually runs from about 6 to 10, and that's it. So again, we're trying to do anything and everything we can to minimize the overall impact, but at the same time still serve the ultimate purpose of fundraising for OSA and for parks.
Okay, thank you.
Dell, just so you know, he was...
Sound check takes 4 hours?
No, that's not what he's saying.
Or you're just going to do it within that 4 hours?
No, I'm referring to the show, but the sound checks are even lower or smaller or shorter even than that. They'll just occur earlier in the day. But we will work to make sure that all of those sound checks are compacted as tightly as possible to reduce the overall amount of noise that's happening.
And just so you know, Del, Mr. Kinkin was also at the meeting last week and heard the full force of comment last week as well, and the message is done.
Okay, last. we really have to close it up because we have a full agenda. And I'd like to see committee board members here still be available for committee reports and recommendations, which are going to be pushed up pretty far ahead today. Okay? All right, so Solano.
Are you guys registered with the Char 500 New York State?
We are. If you want to look at our tax filings, you can go on the
Yeah, sure.
New York Attorney General website and look at all of them.
You guys close up.
Yes, I'm filming.
Financials are combined. OSPOGENS is also a legal nonprofit, and I think that there was some misunderstanding about why it was set up.
We can address these issues later.
You certainly can address these. We need to move on. I think Adam has been very transparent. Things are on the website. You can look there. Speak to Adam after the meeting as well.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you.
thank you very much for
Thank
the
you very
time.
much, Mr.
Appreciate it.
Perlmutter.
Thank you, rabbis.
Item is closed. Okay, number 7.